this team, it is Sion James, which is just a name. I don't know why I find this name so like funny. It's not even funny. It's like, okay, I feel like it's just creating a player through NBA stars and just mixing their names together. Obviously, Zion and Sion, not quite the same, but similar enough. He transferred across to Duke, low usage guard. What is Sion James, who's probably going to be a second round pick? Logan, what is his calling card?
I mean, he's your prototypical Swiss Army knife. There were games where he would play point guard for Duke. There were games where he'd sit in the corner, and there were games where he'd be a help defender at the nail. There were games where he's taken on the best perimeter defender or perimeter offensive player. Regardless of what role he was in, he found value, and it wasn't always a high usage role. He wasn't always the guy creating or finishing the play, but he was great at setting up, filling the gaps. And I think when you're looking for a wing that isn't a star, that's kind of what you're looking for, is the ability to fill the gaps.
I think the question that I would have then about this is, okay, so he did all these little things. He's playing on this team with probably 3 top 10 picks on it at least. Well, not at least. There'll be 3 top 10 picks coming out of Duke, I'm guessing. Is he one of those guys, like I think we've seen a little bit with in the past some guys coming out of Connecticut who benefit from having all these high-level teammates who get drafted. Would we be considering Sion James as a draftable prospect if he wasn't doing this role, which honestly almost translates straight across from what he would do at Duke to what he does in the NBA? But if he was forced into a larger role, a larger offensive role, playing for, I can't remember where he transferred for, I'm just going to say Tulane, and he couldn't do these things, would we be going, oh, well, this is just a nothing player? Like, how much does that context of being put in a role where he didn't have to be the number one guy, he could just be that player who just filled in and plugged all the gaps, and NBA teams would go, oh yeah, I see that, you can just come and do that for us. How much of a factor is that, do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking for those guys, you're looking for traits that kind of scaled up at the college level, whether that is the ability to take on a pick and roll, outlier defensive traits like you see with like a Matisse Thybulle, whose offensive numbers obviously weren't gaudy at Washington. Sion's weren't even eye-popping at Tulane. But you look at the kind of skill set he brings, it's transferred perfectly from a lesser team in Tulane to a national championship contender in Duke. And I think the kind of mindset that a lot of scouts and teams are going to have is, why can't you do that to the next level? Now, it might take some time. It might take some development, especially the shot is kind of hovering around like above average, maybe even limited in some regards. But you kind of just hope that those come along, and then the skill set that he can bring to a team with his passing, with his defending, with his athleticism, kind of just gets put on the table.
He shot, like, people will look at the stats if they're watching this video, they'll look and say, he shot 41% from 3. What are you talking about? He's shooting. He shot 52% from the field, but he didn't take threes. Like, what did he attempt? Like, under 2 threes a game? Like, the usage is so low here. And while the free throw percentage is good, and that does translate across, I think expecting him to be that level of a shooter is, that's a real sample size issue to me, that I don't think that's a real number that you can bank on. But of course, he did it over the course of whatever many games that is, 30, 40 games almost. He did that. He shot those numbers, but it feels a little misleading.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of in that like Isaac Okoro been a guys where he's really kind of just he's really kind of just feeding off of what other people do. And you look at the quality of shots that he shot, and you can see where that 40% comes from. If you don't knock down 40% of those shots, you're looking at somebody who just is a non-NBA player. Were you going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when you talk about like defensive ability, the shooting, again, I think we're all pretty much like, okay, if you can develop into a respectable shooter, that's useful, obviously, for what you can do in the league, because then teams have to provide at least some level of cover. But defensively, all right, so 1.2 steals per 36 minutes is not a very high number, but he makes his money being this defensive guy. There's been plenty of players who have come in and not been big defensive stat generators while being good defenders. Do you think there is more for him in terms of being able to be a defensive playmaker, or is he just that solid positional type defender who just makes things better without actually generating events?
Yeah, I think what you're looking for in Sion is just to be plus in so many categories that you don't really need to be elite in a lot of them. So he's obviously a good positional defender. He can play a little bit on the nail. He's long enough to kind of impact drivers going by his space. And he's strong enough to wall off guys. But, he's not big enough to be a rim protector. He's not quick enough necessarily to stay with the quickest guards. But he fills a lot of gaps on both ends. He hits the open shots, like we said. He plays solid, not elite defense. He's a great passer, but not necessarily an initiator. For some people, that might push people away because it's like, well, I need somebody who can be elite at least one thing. But Sion might just be so good at so many aspects of the game, you can't keep him off the court.
He's an interesting guy for sure with that connectability, and we've already seen the ability to scale down into a role which is going to be needed for him in the NBA. So he's someone to watch in that second round. Logan, thank you